Thank you for joining, and I welcome everyone here. As you guys all attended the previous session, you know about a few things about Git. अनि हामीले अस्ति नै जसरी हामीले बेसिक कुराहरू सिक्यो हैन गिटको बारेमा कसरी गिट चलाउने कसरी एकाउन्टहरू बनाउने गिटहबमा अनि NSCSP को रिपोजिटरीमा कसरी हामीले कमिट गरेर हामीले पुल रिक्वेस्ट बनाएर अनि कसरी हामीले केही चेन्जेसहरू बनाउन मिल्छ हामीले त्यो गरेको थियौं अनि आज पनि फेरि सेकेन्ड सेसन एन्ड्रुले नै गर्न गएको छ those who don't know Andrew maybe it might be easier just introduce yourself instead of me telling him about you.
Okay.
Andrew, go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Andrew, and I'm from Minnesota here. And just to give a little background about me, I work in Royal Bank of Canada Wealth Management. It's a fintech company, and I work as an application analyst. And so I'll be going through over this Git session with you guys.
All right. So I think, we can start here. Andrew, if you can take over now
Okay.
and start sharing more about Git.
Okay, sure. Let me share my screen. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. So this is the kind of portfolio that we are looking at, and this is the same layout and everything is same that we'll be designing for this session. So just let me give some brief introduction what's going on in here. So here for this application, they especially make use of GitHub API and also an article API. And the original author for this code and for this website is this guy you can see over here. So we won't be making any changes to the code, and also won't be digging much like into the code base and making some changes. So this is just an introductory thing, as myself previously have struggled, like how we can set this thing up. And so I found out that this is the easiest way that you can get rolling, and you can even have like customized your DNS like this. So even if your name and whatever you want, you can have it over here. So it doesn't have to be github.com/your portfolio name. So you can customize that domain name, and this picture and all of these things are getting from the GitHub API that is actually fetching everything from a GitHub profile. And you can edit this thing. So these are all the top repositories that exist in your GitHub API GitHub profile. So, and over here are some of the recent posts that he actually wrote in Medium or Dev2. So the prerequisite for this would be to have a GitHub account, and also to be able to use dev.to or Medium. So this dev.to, let me just log in over here. It's just a community of developers, they say, and it's like, you can write your documentation or whatever, you can write a blog post in dev.to. So it's one of the famous blog portal for developers to say. So you can find all those articles in dev.to, and also you can make use of Medium. So I don't know how many of you have heard, but Medium is also like blog sharing kind of thing, so you can just write whatever you want and you can share with many other people. So so the use of this portfolio would be encouraged, whatever you are doing or whatever you are working, so you should have the habit to make some documentation out of it. So even for your use, or if you want to share with other people, that's even great, because the more you write and more you face errors with everything, that's how you learn more and more about that particular thing. So here you see it also completely works like a resume. And it's also very essential that you can include this link in your resume as well, so that your interviewer or whoever is taking your interview can actually look into your profile and all the contribution and all the portfolio that you have made in a GitHub as a whole. So here is a name and your GitHub bio, and you can edit this thing over here. You can add all of your social links, and these are the tech stack. You say you can modify this website in any way you want, but you need to make sure that you are giving credit to the original owner, whoever wrote this piece of code. So, and over here is the education and experience, recent posts. So there's also a lot of theme that you can choose from, like dark or whatever it is. Like there's 21 themes in total. So it's a fun web page and fun application, just to encourage people to commit more to GitHub and just to encourage to write more about whatever you do and maybe help other developers who are struggling in the same thing. Okay, so let's do some basic thing before, because I understand, because I wasn't able to show last time on how we can commit, how we can initialize empty repository. So let's try to do some of those things before we jumped into portfolio. I'll just take 10 more minutes on maybe going back to that contents. Okay. Okay. So this is the directory that I want to work in. So you can see this is my path, and I can just make a new directory over here. Let's say new test. So now we see that new test has been created, this folder. Let's navigate to new test, and we can see it's empty, right? So let's create some of the, like maybe 1 or 2 pictures that, and then we can initialize this repository and we can push it to GitHub, our profile. So here, let me do touch. Okay. What can I do over here? I can do touch. Let's do index.html. Okay, I can do touch here. Let's see. Over here, so this is the folder, so I can just go here and do new, and I can do probably a text file, just say index.html over here. And in this index file, let's see, I can just write this is a test file, and I can just save. Now, if I do ls, there's one file, index.html text. It's okay for that. So let's see how we can. So this is the existing repository, right? So let's see how we can push this in our GitHub remote repository. So first, let's do this. So before you do, since this is an empty repository, it has not been initialized before. Okay, I can do that. So since this is an empty repository and it hasn't been initialized before, I need to initialize this to tell my system that this is a Git repository, or this folder want to be versioned. So I can just write Git init. So it says, so we are initializing it. So it says initialized empty Git repository in this. So now, if we see, now we can go to the Git file and do ls. These are all the configuration that GitHub or Git creates, the software that it creates, and it have all the global configs and maybe descriptions. So you can look into this thing. It's not like very hard thing to look at, but we need Git to create these files for us to make sure that we can push this folder in our remote GitHub repository. So after it's done, so over here is the config that stores all of your credentials. So you can do global config. as a whole, so if you are somebody who doesn't want to enter your username and password like every time you do a git push, so it's a good way to do a git config. So maybe I can just do git config. So here's the, if you do git config, it will give you all the things that you can do with global with git config. So if you do git config -- global, it will make sure that you need to put your user.email and whatever is that you have registered with GitHub, you can use that. And also it will let you enter your username and whatever is username you have registered with GitHub. So you can say, if you set it, there's a 3 kind of privileges that's in the Git. There's a global, there's a system, and there's a local. So there's a difference between all these 3. And as I can tell that global takes the highest priority in this hierarchy. So whatever you have set in your global config file will be used time and over again until you unconfig it again. So I don't want to do config because I just want to, I know there's some configuration that's already in my computer here. So I'll just work with that. So we can do, now we can do git status over here. Okay. Oh no, sorry, I need to exit from this file. So I cannot do git status there. Now I can do git status here. So it says the whatever in the red is, it's saying that these are untracked files, and we can add these files, or in these files the changes have been made. So you can just do git add dot. So dot will just add everything to your staging. So you can either do dot, or you can just do the individual file name. So it's up to you. And so we can do, for now, I know that there's only one file, so I can just do git index.html, this guy. Now I can do git status to check again. Now we see that it's in a green. It says like, now there's nothing in the branch that we are working on. Now it's been added to the staging. Now this file is ready to be committed. So when we get this green one, so git status is the command which will let you check this. So we can do now, after we have added it, we can do git commit -m. So we can just say initial commit. So git commit will commit these changes, everything, it will take the snapshot of your index.html that's in the green, and whatever you push will be the final one in here. So you can do git commit m initial commit. So -m is a message that you can say, and is the like what you did. So you can just write like, I created a new file, or you can just write some description over here, whatever you did or whatever this file is. So it says that one file has been changed and this is already committed. So this is the commit log over here. You can do a rollback through logs. So if you see git log, so if you see git log, here's the SHA-256 ID for all of the commits we can do. And that's how it's like uniquely identified. Every commits are uniquely identified by this ID over here, which is the SHA-256 encryption. Now we see that we have committed it. Now how we can push this to our remote repository? So for that, we need to go to our GitHub. Let's go to our GitHub, okay. And let's create a new repository over here. Let's say new test. So you can make this public, you can make this private, up to you, and you can add a README file, add a git ignore. So when you have a big, huge project, you can actually create this kind of folders. So .git ignore here will ignore all of those files. Whatever is in this folder will be ignored by Git. So it will not be tracked and it will not be committed and changed. So when it's a big project, you can choose a license. You need to register whatever project you are doing through. There are a lot of licenses over here, Apache 2.0. So these are all open source licenses that we don't need. But if you're working on a big project, you need to make sure that you are protected with this license so that others won't copy your work. So let's do create repository over here. So now we see that GitHub pretty much gives us a clear instruction here. So what we need to do, so it says create a new repository in command line. You can do this kind of follow, but we'll be doing this second options because we already have existing local repository in our drive. So we need to make sure that now, let's see. Remote B. Now our GitHub doesn't know what's our local Git doesn't know where's our remote repository is. So how do we link our local Git to this remote Git is by adding this line of piece of code here. So we are saying that this is our remote origin, this github.nssp IT. So we need to add that in our file or config. So that's what this line is showing. So if we copy this, and now let's do git remote -v. Now you see that our origin is this. So we can do fetch and we can do push and pull in from this remote repository. Now you see this is master, right? So master is like the old version, like old naming convention that was used by GitHub. So you can push it this way, but you need to make sure that it's the right naming convention for you. So here I want to use main and not master, so I'll use this command. So this branch M, so this main will replace the master over here. So let's do this. Now I'll just see how this has been changed from master to main over here. So now this is done. Let's do, now I want to push my local files to my remote origin main. And you see our remote origin is this link, right? So we can do git push. Now we need to enter our credentials for GitHub. So if you set up the config, global config, you don't have to do any of this, but I have not set up over here. So I want to make sure that I do it. Let me grab the token. Let's see if it's still valid. So I just entered it, so you won't see it, but the password was already there. So I just right click it and it was there. So we see that I think it's successful, done. Okay, now after this is done, this is our GitHub profile. Let's refresh it. So when we refresh it, the screen is gone and there's a new file that we created. So this is a test file and our branch is main that we have created. And so this is how we push the existing repository in our GitHub. So, and now let's see. Okay. Let me just copy this. Let me clone this in new folder. Okay, let me just do clone. New test. So this is the one I just cloned. And now if we do git remote -v, it already know the remote repository. So whenever there's any, whenever you are cloning from others repository or you are working from, so you don't really need to initialize the folder or initialize the repository, but because it already knows that it's a GitHub repository, and there's already some configuration and there's a remote path and a folder that's already been set up. So that's just the brief description of how we can push and pull existing repositories to GitHub. Now let me cut short that and let's go on how we can create a portfolio. Let me just do this. Okay. Okay. So first of all, I need to fork this project. You can just clone it and work it that way, but it's recommended that you make your personal copy, and also it will make sure that this whoever the author of this code is knows that we are using their property or their code. So I can give this link in the chat. Let's see. So that's the main link. Now, as you can see, I'm logged in as NSCSP IT. Okay. Now what I can do is, now I know that I want to fork this project. So I told last time too. So what forking is that it will make your personal copy. So let's see. Let me do fork here. So it won't let me fork because I already have this forked already, this username. So just let me log out and let me do it from my personal account where I have not done that. Okay. Okay. So this is my personal account. Now what I can do is can search. Sorry about that. Just give me a second. I need the link. Easy profile. So you can search like this. Profile. And search in all GitHub. So this is the one that we need. Now, just verifying that it's still me and my personal project. Now what I can do is I can just fork this repository. Now you see before it was this guy name / easy profile, right? Now what happened is like now it's my name and this folder name. So I just forked his project into my GitHub. Now I can work on this GitHub and it won't make any changes to the main repository that there's this guy on. And every changes that I'll be doing will only affect my repository that I forked already. So that's the idea behind forking. So whatever changes that you want to do, it's a good idea to fork the repository. So you don't really make a difference, or you don't really make a change in the main file, main project folder. So I verified that this is me. You can just also verify that by your name over here. So when it's your name / this name, it's it's forked successfully. Now what I can do is let's do this. Now we have forked it. Now we'll rename it in GitHub settings. Okay. So repository name. Okay, rename your. Okay, let's do this. Can go to pages. So we need to make sure that this name doesn't conflict with the name of the owner. So we got to make sure that we change that as well. Options, let me change the repository name to Andrew PF. Rename over here. So as I renamed it, you see that it's been changed from this to this. Okay. Now, so there's some actions that has already been set up by this guy. So just to give background about actions, it's like a CI/CD pipeline that's integrated with GitHub. So, you know, there's a project and there's a fixed procedure that you need to follow from coding to building, coding to testing to building to deploying. There's a step, right? And all of this takes time, are time consuming work. So GitHub Actions is just an easy way to automate all of this stuff. So now, if you can see here, so he has already created one action that will build this directory, that will build this project, and it will deploy it to GitHub pages. So that's the actions over here. So now if I click on actions, okay. So this actions is now enabled on my repository or in my GitHub. So I should be good on that. Now let's do, let's clone this project. Let me go back. Let me just do cd. Let me go inside this folder. Okay, no, not that one. So it's just basically telling you where you want to clone your file or where you want to download those files on. So I'm just telling it that I want those files to be inside this folder. So I can just do ls to list everything, and I can do git clone. And this GitHub, my name, and this whatever I rename. Now this good. Now it's all downloading all of those source code in my local computer. Now it says 100%, right? Now if I do ls and if I do cd, you can see there's an unreached that I just cloned, and I can go in this repository. Now what I can do is I can do code dot. So coded will just basically open a Visual Studio Code. It's just a command. You can use IDE of your choice, could be Sublime or whatever you want. So for me, I want to use Visual Studio. So the reason why I did code dot inside this is that the Visual Studio will import all of those files itself. So I didn't have to like manually import everything over here. Now, okay, let's do this. Okay, this is good. So these are the standard folder, like, you know, folder boilerplate, I can say, that are created by React or whatever front-end tool that you're going to use. So this basically uses React as its front-end. So they are just mostly using the front-end tool. So if you are good with React, you can look into source code and you can just look into the components that you have designed. So there's a headers like blocks and like all whatever we see in here. Okay, not here. Whatever we see in this guy, the one I showed, it's all in here. So you can, like, if there's any modification you want to do, you can make changes here. And but you basically need to have some idea about how the React MVC work and how this actually work. So we are looking at package. First of all, we are looking at package.json. If you open this package.json here, so this is a package folder. Here's, like, you know, in this package.json, this is the file that's like whenever you do npm create React app or npm create or just do ng for Angular to create a new project, this package.json is already there. So it will be there. So you don't have to make any of these files. So this comes by default. So these are all the dependencies that he used. So dependencies are like, you know, you need this to be able to use some of this functionality. You need to have a dependencies installed. So for example, there's use of GitHub pages. So GitHub pages is like, it's made by GitHub, right? So in order to use in our project, we need to make sure that we install this dependency in our project. So when we install it, so you can just do like npm install and gh pages -- save, which will save all of this config that you've done over in the package.json. So I don't want to go through here more. So let's see. First of all, you can change the name here, right? You can just change like version, whatever. And I can change the description here. Demo the portfolio website. Now we need to make sure that the URL that you'll be pointing should be yours. So for me, it should be this /. So let me see. Not this one. So my name.github.io/AndrewPF. Okay. That's what I need. /. So it will know that this is the home page for this project. And okay. So you have made some changes. Okay. Now you can change your repository in here to this link. If you just hit on code here, it will give you HTTPS. So we need this link. So you can just copy over here and go to your Visual Studio and just do paste in here. So it knows everything is there, right? Now if I do Control S, so it will save it. Now let's see what we can do. Let's build this. Let's try to build this project locally before we do some push and pull. So we can do, open your terminal here. So we need to make sure that npm install, because we are downloading it from other person repository, we cannot do npm start. It will say like, I think the dependencies will fail. So there's like error, invalid name, this. Okay. Okay, let's see. Now I can do npm install. So it will just download some of the dependencies that was in the package.json. Okay, we also need to change this over here. There's some string validation going on in here. So it says the string does not match this pattern. So I need to make sure, I think the space is causing this. Or no. Let's just do this. Now it's building the project. I'm sorry, it's installing like all of this dependencies in our local computer. So just if you do npm install, Node Package Manager is smarter enough to know where it needs to look and what are the packages that it needs to be installed. Okay, let's give some time for it. Okay, so it says some install, right? Now we can do npm start. Let's start this, fire up this project. Okay, I did not save that. File, save all. Okay, this start, critical start with a script before, not a problem, likely there is no going on. Okay, critical start. So what's the critical in here? Okay, npm. Let's do npm test. If I fire up again. Okay.
Loop by क्या?
Looks like there's something in this code. So let me, I don't need this test for some time. Comments are not permitted, okay. npm, let me go back to Prerequisite. Oops, sorry about that. Let me, I think I'm missing a Prerequisite package here. So Prerequisite is the npm package, which I need to install probably. Npm install Prerequisite. Okay. Let's give it some time. So in the meanwhile, you can see some of the folders in here. There's a config.json file. So that is where some of the changes that you need to do. So, we saw, right? So this is making use of GitHub API again, I'm saying. So whatever your GitHub name should be over here. So for me, it's this. So it was what's this sort by doing is that it's finding the project in your GitHub and looking at the stars. That's how it will sort the project in your repository or in your website. Okay. npm sorry, let me run this again. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, the deploy, this is probably not a problem. So what it's saying is that there's some problem with deploying on GitHub. There's like additional debuild, npm run build, pre-deploy. Let me check this. What if I just do npm start? And not deploy it. Yeah, okay. Okay, we can just do overall deploy at the end. So we don't have to build it locally.
GH pages भने के हो?
So it's like, it is where it's deploying. So we need this because we'll be deploying this in a GitHub pages. So this is a deploying script that it's trying to run.
So where is GS pages? Is it
So it will create the GH pages itself in your GitHub. So that's how the web page get hosted. It get hosted in GH pages. Okay, let's see. Now you can follow the documentation that's available in that guide website. So I'm also looking some of the information over there. So your personal life. Okay, we missed this thing. Just go to the setting over here and go to your settings. In your GitHub, go to your page. Now it says your site is published as this. Okay. Now, okay, what change so branch is GH pages. So it's good. So I think, let's see over here. So I just, when I did the npm run build or deploy, it just tried to deploy some of these files over here. So that's why we can see the portfolio that we make changes over here. So GitHub pages is good and root is good. And over here, you know, if you don't want this URL, you can also choose your custom domain that you can register in probably GoDaddy or wherever you want. And you can add your DNS routing in here. So this is good. Okay. Now what I can do with the changes, let's do this. I've made these changes over here. Author, we'll just leave this guy name because he's the author here. File, save all. Let me do this. So we can just do Git status again. So it will change, look at the packages that are changed. We'll just do git add everything. And then we'll do git. If you look at now status, there's a green. Git commit and made some changes. Okay, now that is good. Now I can do git push. So it says, okay, let me check. Let me verify it's some of the file has been changed or no. Okay. So now we see there are some new changes. Let me also do one thing. Let me go to setting, go to pages, and let me grab this here. And you can go to your code and you can replace your website name over here. Save. Okay, it's probably deploying, so it will take some time. And let me see if the actions is good. So you can comment the action and you can see there's a workflow running, right? Because I made some changes. So what it is doing here, it's running the CI/CD pipeline, and currently it's building the project. So we can also do like whatever I try to do. You can do npm start, npm deploy. You know, those are all the npm build commands that you need to need to run the project locally. But now since I'm pushing it into the GitHub, now GitHub is automatically identified that there's some changes in the code. And on the basis of the code change, the workflow or this workflow has been triggered. So now it's building this project. You can click on this and you can see the log on what's going on here. So you'll see it's setting up job. It just checked out the repository and it did the setup. So you can just go through it, whatever is in there. So you can just look at the status, everything over here. So you see over here, it says a completed deployment successful, right? and it's doing all those other stuff. So then we'll let it see. Now, when we finally see the green in here, so you can go back to the code and let's try to refresh this. Now you see everything has been, this file has been changed according to my GitHub over here. So let me show you, go to my repository, personal repository. And these are all the folders that I have created or I have forked. And that's what I get over here. So there's a card, there's this. So some of the projects that I tried to do before. So this is how it is listed. So this is the idea. So it's pulling this name from this over here. Let me change it to my full name. And this is a, let me save. Let's see how GitHub API works over here. So now, as you see, I made changes over here. The changes has been reflected over here as well. So that's the work of API, right? You don't have to handle the backend, but you'll see all the changes and you can perform all of these things. So this is actually just fetching, getting information from over here and over here. So whenever it sees the changes, the API works and these changes are reflected in your profile. So there's one thing that we did now. So themes, there are a lot of themes over here, whatever you want. So if you change your avatar in here, whatever, upload picture. Okay, I don't think I have pictures in here, so I'll just cancel it. So whenever you change a picture in here, it will change over here too. Now we'll see how we can change this information and text tag, and we can see how we can change this information. So you can actually customize this, okay? So give me 1 second. Now let me click on my Visual Studio again. Now here in your config.js, you can see. So you can just say, just show me the 6 projects and not 8. So depending on what you want, 7, 6, or 10, it will do that. So forks is like, if you have fork project from somebody else, then it will not show in your repository. So that's what it's set to false. Now social, you can change your LinkedIn username. So I don't know what mine is, but so you can do all of these changes over here, right? So I don't want to go through. So let me just do Andrew. So this is the email that I use. And you can change your website name to this probably. And this is the area of data. So for example, you are good with, let's say, REST API, you can input here. And it's an array and Laravel. Okay, let's do Spring Boot and DevOps. Okay, let's give some Git. So we'll change this experience. Now you can change your experience here. You can change your my toast company, whatever company that your name is this. So if you have less, you can exclude some of these. You can do that and make sure you don't need this comma over here. So this is just returning an array of data over here. And education, you can change over here. Let me do this and cloud state university. Okay, And so it also makes uses of Google Analytics. So I don't know if you know about Google Analytics or not. So it will basically keep tracks of how many people visited your website and how many people actually open your link to see your post and your website as a whole. So you can do that. You can do change this ID over here. So you can actually search for Google Analytics in Google and get this personal ID over here, which you can replace over here. So there's hot jars. I don't know what it does. And these are the available themes that we see before. So all of these are in config files. So we don't have to change anything other than the config. So now, let's try to let me create a medium or dev2 account so we can see how it pulls this section. So how it automatically pulls. So let me go to dev2 over here. Let me do create account. So you can just do single sign-on. Let me use sign up with GitHub. Yes. So dev by this wants to access. Okay, I authorize you. So it will cancel the hassle of creating your profile and stuff. Skip for now. Okay, tell us. Okay, so you need this username later. So let me do continue. Okay, so it doesn't take hyphen over here. Let me just do. Skip for now. Finish. Okay, now it says I'm part of the community. That's good. Now you see your profile has been created. So let me just create a blog post here. So this is maybe just write test post here. This is to test article API. GitHub. If I just publish it. Now we see it has been published. Let me create another post too. Test post 2, and this is a test post 2. So that's good. I can publish it. So now, as you just see, I have a 2 posts in my dev.to account, right? So just grab your username in here, Control C, and then go to Visual Studio, and you just replace your username. So if you are using Medium, make sure to replace this dev.to to Medium, but I'm using dev.to, so I just leave it as it is. So that should be all. That should be all the changes. Let me see over here. Okay. LinkedIn, you can add your username in here too. And Facebook, Twitter, yeah. So any of this you don't want, you can just remove from here like this. File, I can do save all. Now create a terminal. So once I did save all, let's do Git Status. Now I made changes in this config file, right? Now let me do Git add this.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So those folders were in the source folder, right?
Yeah.
And all of those files like app.js, apptest.js. So is this like do they have to have unique names, or like when I see config.js, I thought it was like a configuration file, you know?
Yeah.
So is this the configuration for the web page, or it displays the website whatever the code is written in there?
Actually, no, this is just a configuration to make it easy for somebody like us. So you can actually not have this config.js, but it can only just do a particular thing. But here they are making use of React programming language. which is exporting this module over here. So over here in the component, if you open this project.js, you can find some code in here. So now it says, okay, now it's been importing config over here. So everything that we see has been configured in some of the component folders over here. So your web page is, the config is only getting the data from end user, and all of this source component is doing its work actually. So it's not that if you just have the config and not this, nothing will work. So these are all needed.
So config file is like a ready-made files.
Yeah, just made for a user simplicity, so that this website can actually be created without this particular config. But you really need to be able to understand React so you can make changes in this file that you can see under component individually, right? So for somebody like us or somebody who doesn't know React, it's completely hard to understand where the changes need to be made, right?
Yeah.
So for that, so they have actually exported some of the modules over here. So you see here social, right? You can see skills over here. So skills. So these are all doing the programming part over here. And now it says export skill. Now it's been rendered in your app.js. See here. So you need to know how to be able to use React or how the React MVC work in order to understand this application as a whole. But because we don't have time for that, so it's just for simplicity's sake we are doing this.
Okay, thank
you.
So
let me continue. So when I do git add and I do ls, I don't need to do ls. I can do git status. Git status. Let me just pull this. You see it's green now because I added. Now let me do git commit m and just write a comment, made changes in config, right? So you can just do enter. Now once it's committed, you can do git push. It's not asking me any credential because for my personal account, this already have stored as a global config. So it knows that I'm using that username and password for a git push. Now let's see what are the changes that are detected. So when I just did git push, let me go to my GitHub profile here. And let me go to my folder here. So you say, see, there's a commit made just 42 seconds ago. And let me go to action. Now, as you see, whenever I did the commit, this knows that there's some changes in this source code. So this workflow automation will run and build the project itself. So let's give some time for this project to build. And you can click on that and open it. Probably if you are somebody who likes seeing logs, this is a good place. So it is where it tells where it fails. So you can look at the logs and try to fix it. So it's doing npm build. Over here it says, okay, yeah. Now, so after build is done, it's deploying in a GH page that we seen before. Let's see what it says. It says right, everything is good. Okay, now let me go in here. Let me try to refresh it. Now you see this is changes I made. Now this is the tech stack changes I made. This is mine, and this is the experience that I made change, and this is what I made change. Now the things to look at is like, the two tests that I created in here in dev.2 is actually being rendered in your web page over here. So this is how the API works. So it's how it's been linking, the data is being passed over to their GitHub so that you don't have to manually do anything over here. Now it's just, you can actually, like, Developer2 is a great website and you can write blog. But if you are somebody putting in your resume, it's good to have a GitHub portfolio. So when somebody goes to your profile, when somebody clicked, they can see all of your information in one page. They'll see your basic information. They'll see what you're good in, your experience, where did you study, what are the projects that you have done, and what are the posts or what are the things that you have written on. So this is all how we can do it. You can change theme over here like this, however you want. So if you don't want this option, you can just make sure go to config, and just delete some of these themes over here so that you can just skip few of this over here. So when you make change, make sure to do a git push to your repository, and then the project will build itself. So I think that's all for me. So that's how you can create a simple portfolio website that includes your Dev.2 or Medium article education and your GitHub repositories. So I think that should be all. If there's any question, please feel free to ask right now.
That's awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, now we can try to play around with GitHub and try to build some portfolio that'll be helpful for all kind of scenarios. Like you can just add it in resumes and in your LinkedIn profile, everywhere. So yeah, thank you, Andrew. This is awesome project.
Sure.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now, or if any of you are watching recording, then please feel free to reach out to us in our Facebook channel, our Facebook group, or the Messenger group. So yeah, so time for some questions if you guys have any.
Yeah.
I have one question. I don't know. So the build and deploy from GitHub web page that was happening automatically, is that something that you had to configure, or does that come with GitHub account?
So GitHub provide like one of the functionality called GitHub pages. So it can be like, GitHub also give you resources like Jekyll, like GitHub uses that language, but you can use whatever language of your choice. So that's a functionality that GitHub provides to you. And so whenever you build, right? So after you build your project, you'll have one of the deployable. So whatever is in your main repository, you want to be in the GitHub build. So we can see the difference, like what consists in those two folders. So we can look at some of the differences. Let me just do a quick share again. Sorry about that. Share, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is the main, right? This is where I pushed my changes. So this is my source code, my main code. So this is what is needed. Now, if I go into the GitHub Pages branch over here, you see, so this is a folder that is created by npm build. And here's like, you don't see all those files that are in the main. And over here, it's in the, so it will deploy, it will compile, and then after everything is done, it will deploy. So that's the purpose of GitHub Pages. And also, like, if you don't have GitHub Pages, you won't have this URL like this. So in order to maximize GitHub Pages, or in order to have this domain like this, you need to have a GitHub Pages. So that's the functionality of GitHub Pages as well. And this is provided by GitHub free of cost, so we don't have to do anything. And if you like, if you are somebody who likes to understand how it is worked truly, I have done that, so I can share that if it's needed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Nice. Right. Any questions?
Anna, Joseph, Nira.
I guess I might have to check React in order to see like how the code flow is working, right?
Sure, yeah, React is like the easiest language that exists there. So it's not
Is it?
hard. It's like a framework or a library. You can say it's a library. So it's not even a framework. So it's really simple to learn.
Do you
Very,
suggest
very
JavaScript
fun.
or React? I think it's same, right? JavaScript is a framework.
The JavaScript is a backend language, so it's not a framework.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I think React make use of TypeScript and not the JavaScript, but you can use JavaScript also. So it depends on whatever you are familiar with.
Okay. All right.
So is React a kind of a package that we can install on our languages?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can do npm install.
sure.
Yeah.
What is the full form of NPM package manager?
Node package manager.
Yep.
So prerequisite to run npm command, make sure you have Node.js installed. So if you can go to Node.js website, you'll get some downloadable there.
Okay.
So it's like saying pip for Python. Python have their package manager called pip, and there's also yarn or chocolate or something like that. Yeah, there's many depending on what you're familiar with. So you don't have to do npm over here. You can do yarn as well. You can use yarn build or yarn start depending on whatever is installed in your system.
Yeah, I found React very fun and very easy and quick to learn. If you can also go to React websites, then they have very nice documentations of how you can start a project and
Yeah, React has a very big community. It's maintained by Facebook, I think. So there are a lot of developers who are working, and Facebook uses React itself. So.
Yeah. त्यो एनपिएमले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ एकदमै सजिलो हुने रहेछ क्या है त्यो खासै त्यो ऊहरू क्या बिल्डहरू म्यानुअली बिल्डहरू यताउताहरू गर्न नपर्ने एनपिएम स्टार्ट गर्यो भने आफै बिल्ड हुने धेरै डिपेन्डेन्सिजहरू इन्स्टल गर्न नपर्ने
Oh, they have like a okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So हामीले अब त्यो तपाईले बनाउनु भएकोबाट के गर्ने क्लोन गरेर हामी आफैले गर्ने हो अब त्यसमा try to make our own web page.
So there's an instruction too. If you see the README, so it will tell you what to do.
Okay.
So it's really easy to follow. It's not that hard.
Okay, let me see GitHub.
I have put a link in the chat, so you can use that link as your main source and not mine.
I think are you gonna do next session too?
Oh, I don't think so. I think we are pretty much good here.
Okay.
Next session about what?
Like going the dashboard of GitHub, like हुन्छ नि कोडमा त्यो कोड भन्ने ट्याब छ हैन कोड what is that for, like pull requestले के गर्छ on the second त्यो उमा अनि what does actions do, किन अघि न you show build and deploy अनि अब अरूमा के हुन्छ अझै पनि हैन त्यो त सिम्पल एउटा भयो लाइक हुन्छ नि walk through dashboard. I think that should be the first, but
pull request codeहरुमा त I think first session मा गएको जस्तो लाग्यो.
But I think it's good if I saw.
Yeah, किनभने it would be म चाहिँ फर्स्ट टाइम गिटहबमा आउँदाखेरि यसले के गर्छ नै थाहा भएको थिएन कि कोडमा कोड थिएन हैन लाइक दे वर लाइक फोल्डर्स लाइक व्हाट इज दैट सपोज टु डु अनि पुल रिक्वेस्ट भन्ने थियो आई डिडन्ट नो व्हाट वाज दैट अनि एक्सनले के गर्छ अब बल्ल आज थाहा भयो एक्सन त्यहाँ कुनै फोल्डरमा नि त्यो थिएन कि त्यो एक्सन्समा के गर्छ भनेर हुन्छ त्यो धेरै जसो चाहिँ खाली नै हुने रहेछ कि त्यसमा
So unit is actions, it won't come by default. So you need to set it up according to your project. So for example, you can do just front-end projects are good because it's are smaller, right? And also, but you cannot actually use GitHub Actions for your backend project, like if you are coding on Java or any other heavy languages, C++, you cannot use GitHub Actions. So that's what we use Jenkins for.
Okay, yeah. हेरौँ अब रियाक्ट एकचोटि हेर्नु पर्ला त्यसलाई
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you everyone for your questions. And if you, feel free to reach out to us even in the group anytime if you have any questions. So, yeah, thank you for everyone's time here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anna, I think Anna चाहिँ आज यो सेकेन्ड सेसनमा